Pleasure having you here.
Nice to be invited. Nice to be with you.
Janos.
Hey, nice to be here.
Здравейте и на български. Искам да го кажа това нещо преди да продължим на чист английски.
Somebody gets a clicker.
Thanks.
And
It will be me.
I'll leave the stage to you to do the presentation, and I'll join up for the Q&A section.
Thanks. So we just wanted to make a quick presentation so that you know what is Creative Assembly, what is Total War, what is Creative Assembly Sofia, and who are we that we are speaking to you. And first, let's start with a brief introduction. This is Janos Gaspar.
Yeah, hi, nice to be here. I am currently the head of product for Total War. Previously, I was heading up as game director a couple of the games, Three Kingdoms, Total War, Attila. I was lead designer for Shogun 2 and Rome 2. And prior to that, I was working with Eidos and originally historian, so I didn't get too far from history.
Yes. Basically, Janos is involved in probably, if you have a favorite Total War, he's very likely to be involved with it. And as for me, my name is Maya Gеоргиева. I am the creative director of Creative Assembly Sofia, which in this case means that I'm supervising all of the creative teams from design, art, audio, and all the rest that are involved in our projects in Sofia. And to talk a little bit about those and many other things, let's start with a brief presentation. Yay. So first of all, Creative Assembly is part of the Sega family. In this case, we are part of Sega Europe alongside all of the other studios under this umbrella. Creative Assembly is the biggest one in this family, and you can see a little bit of the logos of different products done by the Sega studios in Europe. It actually includes also studios in Canada, for example, but yeah, the division is called Sega Europe. And, oh, sorry, okay, the other direction. So a little bit about Creative Assembly itself. Come on. Work with me technology. Okay, so I'd give the word for Janos to present it.
Yeah, so Creative Assembly has a long history. It was founded 36 years ago. And basically by now we have over 880 employees across 3 different studios. One of them is here in Bulgaria. We have one in Newcastle, Creative Assembly North, and the basis is in Horsham in southeast England. We have employees from over 50 different nations, so it's a truly international company. The studio won numerous awards of being the best large studio to work for, and we have a lot of different teams working on many different franchises and different IPs. Basically, we are talking right now about the Total War team, which is the biggest of all of them. Can you get to the next slide, please?
Or maybe one more.
Yeah, one more. And, So Total War is a franchise that is going for 33 years by now, with numerous games spanning different eras. We moved into fantasy with Warhammer, and it's a very unique strategy game. It combines a turn-based campaign and a tactical battle. And the key is that there is always an incentive to go one more turn, get always the context of why the battles are happening, because they are part of a bigger campaign situation that you engineered for yourself. And you can immerse yourself in these tactical battles because you can see everything up and close. And you create stories for yourself to tell. And our main franchise pillars is this scale and the dynamic scales to get from a level of the empire down to an individual soldier. And the authenticity, we try to make sure that like everything that you get is believable. It's something that is following basically the subject matter as closely as possible, and it's immersive.
And you can see that we have a long roadmap of beloved titles, from which the next one is our own project developed here in Sofia that is going to release this October, on 11th of October this year. So a little bit, a few words from me about Creative Assembly Sofia. We joined Sega and the Creative Assembly family 6 years ago. It looks like a lot of time. It also looks like it was yesterday. But since then, we've actually, we changed our offices, we equipped ourselves, we started, onboarding with all of the processes and tools of the Creative Assembly. And since then, we've grown in terms of staff, almost threefold, almost 3 times. And we have been working on both, in collaboration with the main studio in UK and on our own, creatively led products here in Sofia. Since then, we've acquired a lot of proficiency, a lot of expertise, and we also started to open up to a wider region. So we can now boast that we are slowly becoming more of an Eastern European regional studio rather than just purely Bulgarian. We have people from different countries, well, not only from Eastern Europe, to be honest, we also have from all of Europe. But yeah, it's an interesting transition towards a more international office. And here is a list of a few projects on which we have collaborated with Creative Assembly through the years. So we have basically helped and exchanged, talent on many of those projects in different disciplines, in art, UI, programming, animation. A lot of work has been done down the years to almost all of the recent Total War releases. But at the same time, this is how we started. We started with onboarding on an established already title, Rome 2, where we added 2 different campaigns and 1 faction pack, alongside several major updates. All of those projects were interesting in their own right, but they also helped reinvigorate the game, Rome 2, and making it currently, I think, second after Warhammer in terms of active users. So hopefully you helped achieve that a little bit. And then we also developed our first standalone, completely creative-led here in Sofia product, Total War Saga Troy. It's actually an overgrown saga that is not completely a mainline title, but is almost there. And it was a passion project for us. It was a learning experience, definitely. And we also followed it up with a full year of support and all of the DLCs that you see here. So we actually realized a very interesting mix that between legend and reality that opened up the gates for what we're doing now with Pharaoh. And you see here that we also added one of the Thracian rowers, Rhesus, which is the small Bulgarian element in the roadmap in the project here. So Troy was pioneering in many, many respects. One of them was that we put the series for the first time on the Epic Game Store as well. It was the first Total War to go there. And also we gave it away for free for a limited time, in which with this we actually managed to reach more than 7 million, almost 8 million people. And now this is what we're working on, and this is what is going to be presented to the public this autumn, next month basically, on the 11th of October. Total War Pharaoh, the grand historical Total War title set in the Bronze Age that leverages everything that we've learned so far, all of the collaboration and alignment with a tradition of this franchise. And we hope to, put this into practice and release a grand new title in the series. That's our brief introduction. Marto, you can take it from here.
Oh, almost fell down.
Maya, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Janos. There's a water for you. I'll grab one for myself, and we can sit. Oftentimes, I am in the position to advocate for gaming industry in Bulgaria, and where should I sit? I guess I'll join you here. And I think the story of Troy is one that's really compelling, because there are not that many cultural products coming out from Bulgaria, and not Bulgaria alone, of course, that have reached the desktops or the computers or the lives of 7 million. I have actually been systematically misquoting and underestimating the number. I didn't know that it was 7.7 million on the first day.
It's almost 8, yeah.
All right, so united in our diversity, that's the motto of the European Union. I think UK and European Union split their paths on this trajectory. But they are united under the head of the Sega family and Creative Assembly. And this is, to me, particularly the most interesting aspect that we can explore. And I would like to once again invite you to ask your questions, because I can have this conversation for 2 hours, but then it will be mostly my questions and only my questions. So I invite you to join us with some questions. I'm really interested in the collaboration, and I would like to first ask Janos about, so what is different? How did the Total War series change, and what did they stand to benefit after your collaboration with this team based in Sofia?
Yeah, I think that for Creative Assembly, being diverse and coming from multiple backgrounds is very important. That I mentioned that basically over 54 nations are represented, but I think that we had that unique opportunity with the Sofia team to essentially get a whole team with their own understanding, with their own creative flow, and basically run things past them and talk about our processes, that how we are developing the game, and listen to them how they are doing it, and just basically bring that all together. Because at the end, that's how we can remain fresh, and we can just investigate new ideas. And one of the interesting things for me was Troy, and especially the multiple resource economy in Troy. That back at CA Horsham, we're discussing about the economy of Total War for a long time. We did different versions, but never quite set our foot into the multiple resource economy. And then Maya first mentioned that they will try that. It was very compelling and very exciting, basically, prospect. And we followed through that, like all the different things, listened to what did they learn, different challenges they come up with, how it changed the pace of the game, and it was all very interesting. And even around the end of the Troy development cycle, we came here with one of the senior designers who were responsible for the economy for Three Kingdoms Total War, and just went through side by side, made comparisons that like how the AI factions are going through the game, and try to just basically come to good conclusions. I don't know how you remember, Maya.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, for me, I would point out probably several tangible, contributions that we made and we are proud of. One of them, probably the biggest one, is the multiple resource economy. I would say that, coming with fresh eyes and starting to learn both the methods of the development and also the systems of the franchise, we kind of don't know what not to touch, and maybe are more free in actually questioning everything. Because as we learn it, as we acquire the knowledge about it, we can also test it once again through our own perspective and maybe see opportunities to expand or change or diversify in some way. So the economy in Troy is definitely a good example for that. We had Janos and like a task force of design task force joining forces with our leads in a late stage of the project and just going at the problem together, which was really cool to be able to do that, to be able to have that help that you could summon and crack a tough design problem together.
Yeah. I imagine that this is a tough job, like having a franchise that's been running for so long, and like with each year passing, I imagine that the challenge to change something, like to innovate, becomes increasingly more demanding. At the one hand side, because people have spent multiple years with the Total War franchise, so they're used to some stuff, and they have like their own understanding of what the canon is, which may not always be the same. At the other hand side, you always want to iterate and explore and so on. Yeah, I imagine it must have been a great, not clash of ideas, but meeting of ideas when you get the opportunity to do that. Maya, that's a question to you. I know that that Troy has a special place in your heart, and not only in yours, but in the whole team in Sofia, because it's similar to what I've learned some years ago. Like the first female assassin in Assassin's Creed universe was actually conceived in Bulgaria studio. It's kind of, we're sentimental about those things, Janos. There are not that many things happening in Bulgaria with global aspects, so we tend to care. What was it for you, Maya? And then, of course, like just switching roles, you go first here, Maya. The challenging, but also the rewarding moments of bringing a naked idea of Troy into reality with the ideas and the team and the resources in Sofia?
It's hard to describe, obviously, because, as I said, this was our first standalone project. And before that, we kind of maybe underestimated the complexity of actually developing a standalone as opposed to a campaign, because we kind of thought it's pretty much the same, just a bigger scale. But the challenges are not only in the design, in the idea, and the development, it's also in the organization. So for us, it was a big learning experience, transformative for the company, I would say, for the studio. We had to staff up to actually handle the project, and we had
deal with a nasty bug that is attacking globally as well.
Yeah, we actually
COVID times.
We had to develop it. Ultimately, we had to release it during COVID. At the absolute last stretch, we had to move everybody at home to switch rapidly to work from home, and then release
it. Game in easy anyway, right? I mean.
It was, yeah. We kept basically hit every snag that existed that we didn't know existed previously. But at the same time, this was super rewarding. I mean, it was definitely exhausting at the end, but also rewarding to see. It's always, you know, there's one thing that charges me up, basically. It is to see players who enjoy it in the end. So basically, so we are always lurking, you know, on the forums, in YouTube, everywhere. We're passionate about our project, so basically we follow everything that our players compose and react based on that. So it was great to see, for example, people who are resonating with the product, and I think that this was great. And we also are kind of very eager to prove ourselves all the time. Maybe sometimes to our detriment, maybe doing much more than is expected. But the reason for that is that we kind of, because we care about what we do, we want to make it as good as possible. And the self-critique about never being completely satisfied with what you've done and trying to do it better basically is driving us towards always, you know, refining, adding, refactoring, and improving stuff. So yeah, for me, the development of Troy was super exciting. It's hard to describe. It's probably going to be like very long talk. So let's give the time for other questions or for Janos as well.
So Janos, now that you've enlisted Bulgaria in the formal allies in your empire, how did that change for you? How did it play out for Troy?
I think that like at the end it was very fascinating for us to see that like we have a formula that basically we developed for a long time. We know inside out. Many times we didn't necessarily have formalized it in all the different places, but essentially getting it through with someone else and see almost like a child growing up that basically it just basically the franchise starts a new life under the hands of so many talented people, and just see that like how new ideas can basically sprout. And I think that like the real depth of the collaboration started with Troy, especially as for example we have design workshops every second week, Friday afternoon. And it's something that all the different Total War developers across the different studios are coming together and talking about like different conceptual problems, sharing stories from the trenches, different solutions, how they came up with certain ideas, and that knowledge share helps really basically getting into, you could say, the overall stream of Total War. Because at the end, it doesn't really matter where we are working from on Total War. We are building a single franchise. We are serving a single audience. I don't think that like ultimately for the Total War fans, it matters where the game is made. Broadly speaking, it's what
as long as it becomes better and better.
Yeah, and I think that is a fascinating aspect.
All right, thanks. Before, or actually, there are like questions coming in, and like I would use one as a segue. So somebody in the audience, anonymous for the time being, asked. What kind of skills do you need to join Creative Assembly? I know that you're not on the recruiting front end, but I'm pretty sure that the teams the people, the individuals that join Creative Assembly end up one way or another in your team. So what are like the let's say, not too much deep into the question, but like, what is it that you personally look for in individuals?
I could go cheesy here and say creative skills, but...
creative skills?
Yeah, for Creative Assembly.
You must be creative director there.
And I'm also the creative director, yes.
And a creative buzz, oh.
It's a lot of creatives. No, I think that basically there are different entry points you could use, basically the one that suits you. So, for example, we are happy to be accepting a lot of game testers. quality assurance testers who are usually either profiling later to be more and more skilled in their own discipline, or we have a very healthy transition to game design from there, or not necessarily only game design, but other disciplines as well. So this is a very, traditional entry point, I would say. You could also, we've had a lot of, success with also hiring talented new game designers, right? As an entry point, associate or junior level roles, and seeing them through the process. We have people who switch from different industries and join the team as well. Obviously, for programming, you need coding skills. For art, you would need artistic skills.
And a PhD in history always helps, right?
I would say that, passion or at least, understanding of the Total War series definitely helps. But we are not necessarily, limiting ourselves to people with that background and proficiencies and interests, because actually adding people with different perspective helps us basically improve our games and make them more accepted for and aligned with different mindsets, and basically open for a wider audience, which is good. I think that I personally, as a fan of the games that we are making, because it's not just a job for me, right? I believe that there is something great about this role playing of a commander, leader on the battlefield and leader on the political arena, and maybe if we close ourselves to existing fans, we are not going to see how to represent this for a wider audience, for everybody to enjoy, because this is something that I believe is common for all people, not just for a select few.
All right. Janos, you want to add something to that, or?
Yeah, I think I would say that enthusiasm and being really devoted to basically the game that you are making is a very important starting point. But then, as Maya said, it's discipline by discipline is different. We have a lot of people who are coming up basically as internal trainees, hired directly from universities. There are people who are transferring over from the different QA groups. We have people who are coming from absolutely different background, like mathematicians, business analysts, all kinds of different background. It's, I think that, it's being enthusiastic about the game is the most important.
That's something quite odd that I've seen, because my work has mostly been in video games, and I haven't seen that many CVs or interviews. The process with us is much more informal, much smaller scale. But oftentimes people are like, hey, I'm really passionate about things, I really want to do things, the things that you do are cool. So here's my CV. And I see all the skills, and oftentimes I don't see anything about games. And it's all right, so 99.9% in what we do is video games. So I'm really if you spend 10,000 hours in World of Warcraft, let me know. That's important.
Absolutely. By the way, this is why I encourage everybody who is applying for a game job. Maybe your skill set, maybe CV is not aligned perfectly to the industry, because the industry is not that big, especially in Bulgaria. But please make the effort to write a small cover letter where you explain why you actually are applying, how many hours you have in what game, what your interests are. This is actually more important than the hard skills that have been listed, because it could actually make a difference.
Yeah. All right, so before moving to Egypt and the stories that you're cooking up there is a trending question which says, Bulgarian Total War when? So it's obviously somebody passed the part of if, but so then when?
When?
I'm just asking it, I'm just the messenger here.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I can reframe it. So for instance, what did you take into consideration on moving to Egypt?
For us, moving to Egypt was, a logical step after Troy, because we're actually not looking at the focal points. We're looking at the era. So the Total War series have covered many eras, the classical antiquity, medieval, and later with Empire, the colonial era. But of all the classical, of all the 4 major historical eras, the Bronze Age was missing. We had nothing there. And basically our team...
Help me remind, like a Bronze Age is...
So we have the Bronze Age, it collapses, then we got to classical Greece and Rome, then we transition, then, migration period, Huns, Bulgarians, then we go to medieval times, and then after medieval, great geographical, finding, exploration period, and then colonials. So basically the Bronze Age was missing, and we, being, kind of brave and not really inhibited by anything, we decided that we could actually bring it to the fold of the series. So Troy was our foray, our scouting operation into this era, and with Pharaoh we could actually complete to fulfill our dream, to actually represent this era thoroughly and, embed it into the history and the timeline of historical Total Wars.
Okay, I have another tricky question, but I'll leave it for last. now moving to Egypt and to Pharaoh, 11th of October, right?
Yes.
Thanks for sharing the time with us. I know what it's like. The clock is ticking. What is it that is most exciting for you? And what are the things that you are kind of eager to share with the community in terms of innovations, new mechanics? Like, give us a TLDR, Pharaoh, what to expect there?
Interestingly, because when you think Egypt, you think cats, sand, funny hats, probably pyramids, and a culture that has been almost immutable, almost stale for thousands of years. It's unimaginable. But unlike this stability, Total War Pharaoh is actually, leitmotif is actually dynamism and change. So basically, we have focused in this game into making many things, expressing the change in terms of a lot of flexibility. We're giving the players unmatched until now level of customization. So basically, you could tweak without installing any mods. You could tweak almost every major aspect of your experience in the game. At the same time, in the campaign layer of the game, when the management layer, you're not bound to a particular playstyle. You could actually select your mechanics from a pool based on your culture, based on game rules that are immersive, because authenticity matters a lot for us. But still, you can actually select how you want to play, what kind of ruler you want to be, which is, again, an evolution, a new addition to the formula. And on the battlefields, we've, made sure that the world is as lifelike as possible, and we're bringing the dynamic weather system, which changes rapidly during the fight. So instead of, playing the fantasy of, okay, you're selecting in which weather to fight, the weather could actually change mid-fight, and you could play against time during the battle, in the real-time battles, which actually has an interesting, tactical implications in some cases, because it could basically, the weather could turn in a way that could negate the power of some units and enhance the power of other units. So, for example, let's say you enter against a very heavily archer-heavy opponent, but you know that down the line a sandstorm is coming that is going to completely make the archers useless, and then you just need to bide your time during the battle until that moment comes. So basically, and this is also coming with the cinematic visuals. It's beautiful to watch. It's expressed on a new level of artistic quality. So I think that these are probably the highlights.
All right, Janos, for you.
Yeah, for me, is definitely the campaign customization is something that I really liked. That I know Total War for a while. I played a lot of campaigns, but basically this brings a new level of replayability. I can go in and change my experience beforehand. So it's definitely, and the other, again, is dynamic weather. Sometimes we were looking for a long time to incorporate in the games, and it's good to see that like the Sofia team managed to get into Faro, and it looks absolutely stunning. So it's very good, and I really like the campaign visuals. It's really nice.
I saw a picture. Is that was that your office? No, earlier on the presentation when you were like in a. So
this was on
you moved to a pyramid. You work from an inside.
We actually shot here in Bulgaria in a cinematic studio here. Our opening event and developer diaries for Faro, and we built a huge set in the looks of an Egyptian temple. And at the end day of the shooting, we brought everybody from the office to take a picture on the set, and it was amazing.
And cats, or no cats. Yeah. All right, so we don't have too much time because we started a bit later, so we have like a few more minutes. I would like to invite for a last round of questions. And I have one from myself that's like a little bit abstract. I catch myself thinking while observing the reality we live in and talking also to other professionals from the entertainment industry. And I think it's fair to say that the bottleneck of contemporary entertainment industry is human time. So if you draw back some 20 years ago, you didn't have that many opportunities for, let's say, being busy with digital tools and gadgets. Sure, you had games, sure, you had videos, sure, you had a TV, linear TV, and so on. But nowadays, it's like, do I watch the new installment of my favorite franchise? Because if I do that, I would not play my favorite game because I just don't have the time. And, sleeping may be overrated, but just for a week, then you realize that you can't go for it. So what are the, how do you fight for that? Like, what is your secret sauce to make sure that you always have, like, Total War has its tiny, or not that tiny, corner in the hearts and minds of players?
Well, I think it's important that basically it's a long ongoing franchise, and we try to just basically make games that are really evocative of the time period or of the subject that we are touching. We want to make sure that we give storytelling engines to our players where it's not just a one-sided, you could say, adventure where we tell a story, but our players are part of the story. They are telling their own stories. We are giving them a tool to do so. So it's almost like they are directing their own series of like Bronze Age or classical era stories. And those are helping us a lot of basically headspace. And the other thing that we are very lucky with, having a very heavily engaged audience who love our games.
It's been 20 years that some people have been living with.
Yeah.
Games have this thing that they endure over time and that they bring people together, unlike the common mainstream misconception about video games, but that's another topic. So let me check if there is another question to ask. I think there is one, which is the tricky one. Yeah, so there is a question, but I will just read it out loud and maybe point out another colleague of your team here that is better equipped to answer that question, leading the public communications. So the question is, what factors made Sofia an optimal location for opening an office of creative assembly? That's not really to you, unless you want to take part. It's a question. I wanted to read it out loud. And then, speaking of time and brain time and availability, and as we know, like a very strong Q4 is coming up with so many titles, and the video games are knocking on our time schedules and on our wallets. There is a question which I want to ask is, can we expect that the publishing method of Faro would be similar to Troy, as in free to claim, or is this an absurd question to ask you at this point in time?
First of all, I completely sympathize about, not having the time and also having too many options to buy and spend time and your precious focus on. So this is the problem I have as a gamer as well, obviously.
Everyone does. Trust me, that's the definition of contemporary life.
For Troy, we had I would say, one-off opportunity to do it like this, and it was an interesting. It was a pioneering moment for Creative Assembly in general.
I think not only Creative Assembly.
For Fero, we actually are back to our basics, back to our traditional method, but with a twist. We always innovate, even in the method of distribution. So in our case, we are basically, for the first time, we are offering players to actually not only buy the game, but also be able to buy with a discount the whole roadmap for it.
So the whole experience in Egypt, pretty much.
Yes, everything that we want to do with this starting point and with this era is going to add in the roadmap of DLCs that we've prepared for the next year. And all of this is bundled with a discount right now. And the bundles will stay even after release. So it's not a pre-order thing. It's how the game is distributed. So I think that, even if you don't have the time now, you could go back to it and have a good opportunity, good deal with Fero and its follow-up content later on.
Yeah. So. Red wine, tea, cats, blanket, and hail to the Q4. Anything that I did not ask you, or the audience that did not ask you, but you would like to share with us?
That's the trickiest of questions.
In the next 17 seconds we have, to make it easier for you. I know, we have just for closing remarks, if you have anything particular.
I would just say that it's been a very interesting ride for us, a very interesting experience joining Creative Assembly in the opportune moment, in the opportune time. It was like a fate happening, and it's been amazing so far. We've been part of it, growing and contributing. Basically, what's more to ask in this case?
All right.
Yeah, for me, I just wanted to thank for the opportunity to come. Here it's a really nice setup, and it's just good to see all the different games and creative related events and activity happening here in Sofia. So it's good to see.
Thanks for making the time. We reserve the right to invite you again for next year already, which we'll be having. Thank you very much for your time. Applause for our speakers. Thank you, Maya.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Janos, it was a pleasure.